Welcome, drifters, to the ultimate beginner's guide for Driftball. In this video, we're going to cover everything that you need to know about the game of Driftball so that you can hit the ground running when you finally get access to the game. I will be putting timestamps in the description if there are any specific parts of Driftball that you want to jump to. If you enjoy the content in today's video or find it helpful, please consider dropping a like and subscribing. I will be uploading a lot more videos like this, so stay tuned. I also want to preface this video by saying that everything you see here is subject to potential changes, tweaks, and adjustments in the future, so some of the topics I will cover might potentially be outdated in the future. That being said, I believe that this will be a solid foundation for anyone interested in playing ORION Drift. Driftball is a game that is most commonly played 3 versus 3. So with a total of 6 players. It can be played with less if needed, for example, 1v1s, 2v2s, or any sort of in-between. The core of the game is to get the ball into the other team's goal. Every goal is equal to 1 point, whether it was shot from 1 meter away or 40 meters away. There are currently no long shot 3-pointers that some of us might be used to. The rounds are 5 minutes long with a mercy rule of 6 points. So if you can pull ahead from the other team by just 6 points, you'll automatically win, which, trust me, is a lot more difficult to do than it might sound. Inside the arena, there are also boost pads. These boost pads will recharge your boost meter, with the small ones giving you 22.5% of boost, and the larger tube-shaped boost giving you 100% of your boost. There are also floating platforms within the arena. So far, not all of them have been named, as we only use certain ones so far. We have not gotten used to some of these other ones, so they just kind of float there unused, except for very specific use cases. The current names of these structures are as follows. We have nest, bridge, crown, shoulder, mound, logo, which is also known as center, and backboard. The play style of Driftball is very similar to Rocket League in regards to boost pickup and teammate rotations. You sometimes end up playing striker, defender, and goalie all within the span of a really quick play. To actually start a game of Driftball, you must first put the ball into the center. Once it aligns in the middle, the game will automatically start a countdown. At the end of this countdown, the ball gets launched straight up into a random direction. After a goal is scored, the ball will then be immovable for about a second or two before it can be moved out of the goal and a new play can begin. There is a midfield line that appears after a goal is scored, along with a set countdown. The midfield line is visible to everybody, but the opposing team is unable to interact with the ball or the players upon crossing that midfield line. This line then disappears once the countdown reaches 0, or the ball passes through the line, signifying that a play has begun. It's a mechanism that is in place to help the team that just got scored on prepare for a play and give them time to keep possession of the ball. I have also seen some sneaky plays where as soon as the ball comes back into possession, the team will immediately run it out of the goal in a rushing attempt for a counterattack. Sometimes, the quick turnaround catches the opposing team by surprise and results in a really quick point for the team. As you can see, the movement appears to be very similar to gorilla tag. You use your hands to move, throwing yourself along the ground. But it is also very different. We have little dynamic balls embedded into our palms that help carry our momentum as we run. It also helps with keeping momentum in a movement strategy called carving. Next thing I want to talk about is tackling. As you may have noticed, there is a way to tackle your opponents during the game. To initiate a tackle, you first need to get up to speed, and once at a certain velocity, you'll jump out and grab your opponent. This then transfers your momentum into them, tackling them off course. This is an effective strategy to use against goalies to get them out of the way for your teammates to score. Once your team has possession of the ball, you now go on to the offensive. You may have noticed by now that while playing Driftball, you can't actually just grab the ball. Because of this, ball control is a little bit more difficult at first because it requires you to have learned how to move around the arena effectively while simultaneously bringing the ball with you. The biggest way to do this is using simple guiding motions. Put your hand up to the ball and keep it in front of you so that way it doesn't fall behind you. The biggest thing to remember here is that you also have full body collision. So along with both of your hands, you also have your body and your head to use to keep the ball with you. You have several options when trying to get better at ball control. You can just run with both hands, utilizing your body to keep the ball in front of you. You can also just run with one hand, using your other hand to hold the ball in front or keep it on your side. There's also a way for you to just pick up the ball using your hands, then while using the thrusters, you can start to fly up to a different level of the arena and expand the play vertically. The next aspect of playing on offense is of course passing. At first, passing can be a bit difficult because you are still learning the basics of movement and ball control. But with time and practice, passing becomes a necessity to learn and utilize as you begin playing with higher skilled players. Passing and in turn shooting can be a bit tricky to learn as you are not actually physically grabbing the ball. Instead, you are hitting the ball like you would in volleyball. Because of this, we can look at some volleyball strategies for some tips and how to effectively pass and shoot. When watching people play volleyball, you will notice that one of the most common plays is their teammate will set a ball for them to then spike it down for greater speed and effectiveness. I recommend that you use the same mentality when first learning to shoot and pass. As you carry the ball with you, find a comfortable space in front of you to set the ball before following it up with a spike. Doing this builds consistency in your shots while in turn helping you fine-tune your hits to become more precise. On offense, you will regularly start to see something called an airstrike. These can be very difficult to learn at first because you still have to learn the basics of ball control, but the concept is as follows. Once you've been able to get up into the air with the ball, you can utilize your height and speed to an advantage. You can do this by falling with the ball toward your opponent's goal, then waiting until either you are pressured or you see an opening to then immediately shoot the ball with the extra speed that you can apply to it. Moving on to defense. Playing goalie in Driftball is a very challenging aspect to learn, since the goal is big enough that you can't exactly cover everything by just standing in one spot. Because of this, you want to try and angle yourself while in goal to cover as much of the frame as you can to give yourself the best opportunity to make a save. Usually, standing in the middle of the goal will result in you getting scored on over and over again. In fact, most of the time, it's smarter to actually just pressure and rush your opponents before they get too close to the goal and rely on your teammates to backfill your position. This forces the other team to take a shot on goal earlier than they would have liked, making it an easier save for your teammate. Going on to some final strategy points, one thing I see way too often when new players join in is that they end up ball chasing. Your whole entire team will rush a cleared ball, resulting in little to no passing, leaving the goal wide open, and your team consistently losing possession of the ball. An easy counter to this is to think of how you can fit in rotations with your team. It's a similar mentality to Rocket League, where you don't have any one player in one position for too long. Instead, you rotate around depending on the situation. For example, if I notice my teammate is going to be rushing the ball and has a chance to get it clear, I should not be chasing him, but instead running up the field in an effort to be able to maintain possession of the ball once my teammate clears it. The opposite to this is also true. If my teammate is already applying pressure to the opposing team on defense, I should continue to drop back and look to potentially intercept a pass that might come due to the result of my teammate already applying pressure. This type of game sense will come with time, but it is a good concept to keep in mind while first getting into a Driftball arena. Because of the fast-paced nature of Driftball, holding the ball in place for too long will usually result in losing possession. If you are able to get a hold of the ball, you need to be very aware of how much time you have with it. Passing options are almost always available to you, but if they're not, you can always self-pass it. Learning to utilize the geometry around you to get the ball around the opposition is another great skill to learn early on in your driftball career. There are also several different juking plays already invented by players, but these can be a little bit more difficult as most of the time you're just going to get tackled out of the way anyway. If you haven't already, join the Discord for ORION Drift using the link in the description and apply for early access. Thanks for sticking around to the end, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments, and I'll do what I can to answer them in the next video. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you on the station.